The screen goes all the way to the edge, but there's that camera notch. On the back you've got the LED flash, a dual camera setup, 2 contact points for the modular system, and a fingerprint reader. Here you can make out the earpiece, which is a tiny slot in the top bezel. The bottom has a slot for a speaker and another for a microphone. There's also the USB-C port. The top is blank, which means there's no headphone jack, while this side has the power and volume buttons. We have a new contender in the smartphone space. Essential is a new OEM that came seemingly out of nowhere, announced by Andy Rubin a mere 9 months ago. Rubin is the co-founder and former CEO of Android Inc., a little company that was snatched up by Google in 2005 and went on to build the world's most popular operating system. Rubin left Google, and Essential is his new startup with ambitions in the smartphone and smart home markets. Amazon, Tencent, and Foxconn have already invested in Essential, and the latest round of funding values the company at more than $1 billion, and this was before it even shipped a product. With the launch of the Essential phone, we finally have that first product, a high-end, $700 smartphone running the operating system Rubin helped create. The phone more or less leaves Android alone, and, with the backing of hardware manufacturer Foxconn, most of the innovation here is in the hardware. And boy is this a unique-looking piece of hardware. It's made out of titanium and ceramic, and the Essential phone takes the brave and interesting design choice to cut a chunk of the screen away to make room for the front-facing camera. It also brings us yet another modular system, which initially has a 360-degree camera as the only accessory. Nothing else out there quite looks or feels like the Essential phone. Essential's bad first impression. While this is a new product from a new company, Andy Rubin's track record with Android lends Essential an air of credibility immediately. There are still a ton of questions about the company, though. What will support the like? Will updates come quickly or not at all for Essential? Well, things are off to a rocky start. At the Code conference on May 30th, Rubin said the Essential phone would ship in 30 days or so. The company not only missed this deadline but wasn't even close. The actual first ship date for some phones, August 25th, was just a few days shy of 3 months after Rubin's interview. The shipping period was chaos, too, with customers reporting missed shipping deadlines, cards being charged without shipments, and difficulty contacting customer service. Essential phone people are incompetent. Here's what's in my inbox. Most of it is someone's personal data, IDs, addresses, etc. at essentialpic.twitter.com 8 UKCTPBWPZ Eugene Bogorad at Bogorad August 30th, 2017. When it finally came time to ship phones, Essential sent out a bizarre email to some users asking for pictures of the driver's licenses or passports in order to receive the phone. Sending personal information over email is never a good idea, but Essential made things much worse when it accidentally CC'd several other customers in the ID request email. Customers responded to the email with photos of their ID cards, which sent the personal data out to other random customers in the CC field. In a blog post on Essential's site, Andy Rubin described the issue. We made an error in our customer care function that resulted in personal information from approximately 70 customers being shared with a small group of other customers. He apologized for the data leak, calling the incident humiliating. This was all a really bad first impression for Essential, and it should give any potential customers pause. Can the phone itself ease some of that bad taste in customers' mouths? Page 2. The first thing you'll notice when you pick up the Essential phone is just how heavy it is. The Essential phone crams 185 grams 1.53 ounces worth of stuff into a compact 141.5 by 71.1 by 7.8 millimeters body. If we compare it to a 2016 phone, imagine something the size of a approximately 5-inch phone like an iPhone 7, Google Pixel, or Galaxy S7 with the weight of a 5.5-inch phone, an iPhone 7 Plus, Pixel XL, or Galaxy S7 Edge. It's so heavy it takes some getting used to. If you equate weight with quality, you'll love this. If you don't care about the weight of a phone, you'll definitely notice it in your pocket for the first few days. Specs at a glance: essential phone screen 2560 x 1312 5.71 504 pixels per inch LCD. OS Android 7.1 CPU 8-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 42.45 GHz Cairo 280 performance cores and for 1.90 GHz Cairo 280 efficiency cores, RAM 4 GB, GPU Adreno 540, storage 128 GB, networking 802.11 APNIAC, Bluetooth 5.0, GPS NFC bands UMTS HSPA 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, GSM 850, 900, 1800, 1900 MHz CDMA EVDA Rev. A0, 1, 10 FDD LTE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 17, 20, 21, 25, 26, 28, 29, 30, 60, 60 DD LTE 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43 TDS CDMA 34, 39 ports USB Type-A camera, dual 13 MP rear cameras, 8 MP front camera, size 141.5 by 71.1 by 7.8 mm, 5.57 by 2.80 by 0.31 in weight, 185 grams, 6.53 ounces. Battery 3040 mAh. Starting price $699. Other perks: quick charging, fingerprint sensor, notification LED. The weight is no doubt due to the exotic materials. The essential phone sports a unique combo of ceramic back with a titanium band and some plastic bonding. Ceramic, like glass and plastic, has the upside of being RF transparent, allowing cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth signals to go in and out. It also allows the modular system, which also uses wireless communication, to work. Ceramic is really hard, and therefore it's more resistant to scratches than any of the normal smartphone materials. If you've ever dropped a dinner plate though, you know the downsides of ceramic: it's brittle and can shatter. The titanium sounds impressive, but I could take it or leave it. Metal of any kind is great, but you're not really going to feel a difference between this and, say, aluminum. Essential's website says it picked titanium because it is exceptionally more durable than aluminum. Essential means the titanium corners will survive drops better than an aluminum phone, but to me, this seems like an odd consideration for a phone that is 90% glass and ceramic. The back ceramic has a very shiny, almost mirror finish, which means it's also a fingerprint magnet and requires frequent cleaning. You get a rear fingerprint reader that is well placed, easy to reach, and always seems fast and accurate. The rear camera system is 2 13MP sensors, one set up for RGB and one for monochrome, which get combined in software for supposedly better pictures. There's a rear LED flash and laser autofocus system, along with 2 contact points for the modular system. The phone body is basically a rectangular brick with straight sides and high, rounded over corners. There are no ergonomic considerations for your hand here. The display is 5.7 inches with a 19:10 aspect ratio and a weird resolution of 2560 by 1312. Unlike just about every other phone on the market, the Essential phone uses an LCD instead of an OLED display. I don't really have a problem with LCDs, but Essential's display just isn't very bright. It's okay indoors, but it doesn't fit the brightness level we're used to from most high-end phones. If you're looking for hard numbers, the Essential phone hits about 500 nits, while an LCD-equipped iPhone 7 will hit 700 nits. Some OLEDs can go way higher than that, with the latest panel from Samsung hitting a nuclear 1200 nits. You can even see the low brightness in pictures. Anything that isn't perpendicular to the screen looks dull and washed out. The camera cutout means the Essential phone LCD has more corners than any display you've ever seen. Every corner of the LCD is rounded off, which looks nice and doesn't hurt usability at all. The slim bezels look great, especially how the top corners of the LCD perfectly follow the phone body. Everything about the Essential phone hardware looks great. It's a stunner in person. There are a lot of things the Essential phone is missing that you'd normally want to have in a flagship smartphone. For instance, there's no microSD slot or headphone jack. And while there's technically an IP54 dust and water ingress rating, that's only splashable water resistance. Most high-end phones today are IPX7 or higher, which means they can survive total immersion. The camera notch in large various solutions for camera placement we've seen lately. From left to right, we'll call these traditional, bottom-mounted, and notch. As more smartphones turn into all-screen devices, a continual problem that pops up is where do you put the front-facing camera? You can see a selection of the current options above, and, well, everything has a trade-off. The traditional layout with a symmetrical top and bottom bezel leaves everything in a normal position, but this doesn't maximize screen space. The Xiaomi Mi Mix and Mi Mix 2 have gone with a bottom mount approach, which lets the screen extend all the way to the top of the device while relegating the front-facing camera to a bottom chin. The big downside there is that you have to rotate the phone in order to get a normal angle from the front-facing camera. If you're the type who doesn't take many selfies, you're probably fine with this. If you take a lot of them, this will get annoying. Essential takes the same approach as the iPhone X. A notch is cut out of the screen, allowing for as much screen space as possible while keeping the camera in its normal spot. The Essential phone doesn't quite deliver on this maximum screen promise, thanks to the chin at the bottom of the phone, but I think it's inevitable that most OEMs will arrive at a notch design similar to this. While the iPhone X notch is very wide, housing the earpiece, front-facing camera, and a whole 3D face scanning setup, Essential goes with a much smaller R-shaped hole that only houses the front-facing camera. Some of the built-in apps, like the Play Store, are whitelisted and allowed to color the status bar. Other apps, like the settings and nearly all third-party apps, are not allowed to color the status bar, so you get a black bar. A centered, R-shaped camera notch theoretically works well on Android, since the top center of the phone isn't used much. In a normal 2D portrait app, the center of the status bar is usually dead space. It would be ideal if we could take a front-facing camera and make it fit perfectly in the height of a normal status bar, but Essential couldn't quite cram a camera into such a small space, so the notch on the Essential phone is about twice the height of a normal status bar. Essential just made the status bar twice as high as well, ensuring apps get the same uninterrupted, rectangular display area they get on normal phones. I think the industry is slowly zeroing in on the ideal smartphone design. Just imagine an Essential phone without the bottom chin but with a camera notch small enough to fit into a normal status bar area. The camera notch turns the very top of the phone into a dedicated status bar area, which is the purpose it serves most of the time anyway. It's slightly less versatile, but, again, you have to put the front-facing camera somewhere. A small notch seems to be the best place for it. As it stands today, the Essential phone's double-height status bar is a bit weird, but once you get used to it, a design like this is pretty good. In normal 2D apps, this area is blank anyway, so it's no big loss. The camera hole is small enough that you still have plenty of room to the left and right for normal status bar stuff like the time, status icons, and notification icons. It's also no big loss for videos, since the 19:10 aspect ratio makes the screen too wide for 169 content. Essential's software just bumps the video over a bit, so it's not centered on the screen but is clear of the camera hole. Games get the same treatment as regular apps. They are allowed to occupy as much of the rectangular screen as possible, but they aren't allowed to occupy the space around the camera hole. Enlarge how the Essential phone's status bar deals with various edge cases. With games and videos blocked out from the camera hole, the status bar is really the only piece of UI that has to work around the camera notch. Android is used to having a pure rectangle to work with, though, so it's Essential's responsibility to tweak Android so it doesn't draw bits of UI in the camera dead space. I had a lot of fun trying to break the status bar with various edge cases, and, after some testing, I can say it holds up pretty well. As usual, notification icons live on the left side of the status bar and, therefore, the left side of the camera dead zone. As icons pile up here, the usual Android behavior happens. An overflow ellipsis icon pops up and new icons push old icons off of the status bar, keeping everything relegated to the left side of the camera notch. On the right side of the camera bump, there's the clock and status icons. If you have too many icons here, something really interesting happens. The status bar icons jump over the camera dead zone and start appearing on the left side of the camera. In software, this just means there's a no-go zone where the camera covers the screen and the icons are smart enough to not load into the blacked out area. If you pile up the status and notification icons, they will eventually crash into each other, and the status icons will make the notification icon area smaller. Sometimes the system is smart enough to keep a gap between the two sides of icons, sometimes it's not. Enlarge the date-time string in the quick settings panel, set here to German, can get long enough to bleed into the camera dead zone. You can see the clock icon on this screenshot, but on the real Essential phone, it's completely hidden. I've spotted one place where the camera notch actually will block a piece of UI in the quick settings. On Android 7X, quick settings shows the time, date, and the alarm icon on a single line, which usually ends right next to the camera notch. If this date-time string was a bit longer, there's a potential for the alarm icon to be hidden under the camera notch. I couldn't find an English date-time combo that was long enough to crash into the camera notch, but if you plan on changing the phone locale to a more character-heavy language like German, the alarm icon can get lost under the camera notch. Essential should fix this with the same icon jumping logic that makes the status bar work. Enlarge the Essential phone's status bar is double height and, for most apps, stripped of all color. Essential's camera notch seems to unnecessarily break an Android feature that allows apps to color the status bar. Letting apps theme the status bar to match the rest of the interface is a standard supported API in Android, but for some reason Essential's software has a whitelist that only allows certain apps to use this. Any app not on the whitelist, nearly all third-party apps, gets a boring, black status bar, while apps on the whitelist are allowed to colorize the status bar like normal. Most of the built-in apps are on the whitelist, but some like the clock and settings aren't. Third-party developers can contact Essential and ask to be put on the whitelist, which is managed through an app in the Play Store. After looking at the app, the only whitelisted apps are from Google, Snapchat, everything from Facebook Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, and 14 other apps on this page, and the popular home screen replacement app Nova Launcher. Everything else gets a black bar. Users willing to do some command line gymnastics on a PC can force apps onto the whitelist, and there's even a handy third-party app that, once granted the right permissions through the Android developer tools, can manage the whitelist right from the phone. Root access is not required. Page 3. With the Essential phone, we've got yet another phone with a proprietary modular accessory system. The Essential phone falls into some of the same traps other modular phones fall into while deftly avoiding others. The first good thing, and the most important, is that the modular system is easily ignorable when not in use. It does not compromise the design of the entire phone, like the LG G5, or require a huge external connector on the back of the phone, like the Moto Z. The only hint of a modular system is on the back, where you'll see two tiny receptacles for the pogo pins that live on an accessory. Just below those is an invisible mounting magnet, and that's it. Motorola also uses a pogo pin connection system, but it has 24 pogo pins. So how does Essential get away with only 2? The answer is kind of genius. The 2 pogo pins are just there for power. The data is all transferred wirelessly. The Essential phone uses wireless USB to hook up accessories. Just slap them on the back, the magnet holds them in place, and the magic of wireless data takes over. I don't want to say I've never heard of wireless USB before, but I certainly can't name another product that uses it. As the name suggests, this is the official wireless standard of the USB Implementers Forum. Essential's particular flavor works at 60 GHz, and it's capable of a whopping 6 gigabits per second. The Essential phone falls into a common modular problem, though it doesn't justify the existence of the modular system with a worthwhile accessory. The Essential phone is launching with one accessory, a 360-degree camera. There are also 2 accessories that Essential claims will come soon: a dock that's a flat pad, which connects to the pogo pins for charging. And not a joke, a high-end audio accessory with a 3.5mm headphone jack. When I say justify the modular system, I don't just mean make a good accessory. I mean make an accessory that actually benefits from the proprietary modular system. After all, modular accessories have a big downside: they're proprietary, and they only work on a single device. If you upgrade your phone, you have to throw them out, so these accessories had better be able to overcome this big downside with some killer functionality. Otherwise, you're better off making a standalone product. I've yet to see a phone module that pulls this off. These modular accessories all seem like they would be fine if they were built to be standalone products. Take the Essential charging pad, for instance. While it isn't out yet, it sure seems like Essential could have used a wireless charging standard instead of the proprietary pogo pin and produced the same basic product. Then the charging pad would have worked with multiple phones, and since Essential's accessory isn't out yet, customers could have actually bought a working, third-party charging pad at launch. For the 3.5mm attachment, well, Essential already ships a 3.5mm to USB-C wire in the box. I'm not sure what benefit this would have, but then again we don't know much about it. Let's take a look at the modular accessory that's actually shipping soon, the Essential 360 camera. How does a camera benefit from being modular? Essential says it's the world's smallest 360-degree camera. The tiny size is possible because of the modular system, which means the company doesn't have to cram a battery, buttons, or charging port into the device. That's about the extent of Essential's sales pitch for the camera's modularity size. Is anyone who's buying a consumer 360 camera worried about the size? Samsung's standalone 360 camera, which has specs that are very similar to Essential's, along with several buttons, a display, a microSD slot, and a battery, is 4 inches tall. Do we really need a 360 camera that's smaller than it is? The focus on size an indication that I'm supposed to carry this around in a pocket. It's still 30mm thick, so it's not very pocketable, and it also doesn't come with a cover to protect the lens from scratches. I just don't see size as a valid justification for the modularity. Maybe the sales pitch is the price with no battery, buttons, microSD slot, or display to worry about. Surely Essential's 360 camera is significantly cheaper than Samsung's, right? Not really. The MSRP for Essential's 360 camera is $199, while the Samsung Gear 360 is usually $229.99. Currently you can actually get the Samsung camera for less than the Essential cam. Essential's cam is on sale for $179, while Amazon has the Samsung camera for $169. For now, I am at a total loss as to why anyone would buy this. The sorry state of consumer 360 cameras. Before we dive into the specifics of the Essential 360 camera, here's a quick note about 360 cameras in general. Between this, the aforementioned Samsung Gear 360, and the Moto 360 camera, we're starting to see an explosion of cheap, consumer 360 cameras, but they're all pretty lacking right now. There are, universally, issues with image quality, stitching, and media compatibility in these $200 devices. These are early adopter devices with a ton of issues, and, just as the first smartphone cameras were pretty awful, the first consumer 360 cameras also leave a lot to be desired. Most people are exposed to 360-degree imagery through Google Street View, which offers useful, high-resolution imagery of street-side buildings, signs, and houses. What many people don't realize when they go to buy a 360 camera is that Google is using an ultra-high-end 360-degree camera setup, and even those images don't look that great. Essential, like most 360 cameras, uses two 12MP sensors with a super-wide, 210-degree fisheye lens, combining for a 24MP image. The most common Google Street View setup uses 15 lenses and pumps out a 75MP image, and the newest Street View cars are up to 140MP. I'm not saying that anything under Street View quality is unacceptable, but my point is that 360-degree photography is really hard, while 12 megapixels is fine for a 169 picture that takes up a tiny sliver of the area in front of you. Those 12 megapixels suddenly become inadequate when you ask them to capture everything in front of you. The quality of any consumer 360 camera is not going to be great today. The media these cameras pump out is also not the most compatible thing in the world, so you'll probably have to go out of your way to share them. You can upload images to Facebook and video to YouTube, but other than that, it's slim pickings. For instance, I would love to embed some 360 images right in this review, but I have no idea how to do that. If you personally share stuff over an instant messenger, your favorite client probably does not support 360 content. The Essential 360 camera, the Essential phone and 360 camera. Those gold pogo pins click right onto the 2 contact points. The world's smallest 360 camera is still pretty big. Here's the Essential Cam next to the Samsung Gear 3602017 in the 360 mode. Give me a high 4 here. My hand is on the seam between the cameras and there's some dead space where the stitching doesn't work right. The software tries to hide this with a blur effect, but if you have detail in the seam, you'll notice it. Essential's 360 camera is not out yet and doesn't have a ship date. My review unit came with one, though. I'm currently running beta firmware for the device, so let's hope it gets better. Don't let the tiny size of Essential's camera fool you into thinking it's just a pair of lenses and sensors. The device has its own onboard SoC, a Qualcomm Snapdragon 625, which is used as a real-time stitching engine connecting the 2 camera feeds. The SoC gets so hot that there is actually a spinning fan in the camera module. The fan emits high-pitched whirring noises that you can hear in a quiet room, and the phone and camera get pretty hot when the 360 action starts. Attaching the camera to the phone couldn't be simpler. Just stick it onto the back, and the camera will light up, the fan will turn on, the camera app launches, and eventually you'll get a video feed. The magnet does a good job of keeping the camera on the back of the phone. It's solidly attached and easy to slap on. You just sometimes have to fiddle with it a bit to make sure the pogo pins hit the notches. Given that the camera takes so long to boot up, the power lighter on the camera helps with this a lot. Right now again, hopefully because it's in beta, the whole 360 camera system is extremely slow. Anytime you have to fire up the 360 camera, even if the module is already attached and paired, you're in for an 8 to 10 second wait before you get a video feed. The camera app never stays in memory, so anytime you relaunch the camera app, even after a 1-second trip to the home screen, you have another 8-second wait again. It's also easy to lock up the camera app with the 360 cam attached. Anytime I push the 4K button, which is supposed to switch the camera output to 2K, the screen goes black forever, and I have to kill the app. Sometimes re-entering the camera from recent apps doesn't work either, it'll get that black screen again. Once the video feed kicks on, you'll find the usual camera interface with a camera shutter button and record video button. The video feed is slow, it's about a second behind real life, which can be disorienting when framing a shot. You only get to see a slice of the video feed, but you can change your viewpoint on the video sphere by dragging on the screen. The 4K button in the top left crashes the app, while the top right button will recenter the video. Below the video feed is a 360 label that can be moved left and right, almost as if this is a horizontally scrolling carousel of options with only one option. Eventually, this will probably be a spot for different view modes, since the other 360 cameras I've tried have multiple viewfinder modes. There is usually a scrolling view like on the Essential phone, a split-screen fisheye view that shows the front and back cameras, and a flattened-out view of the whole photosphere. By nature, 360 photos are almost always a combination of selfie and landscape photo, so I've found the split-screen view showing the output from both cameras to be the most useful. Essential's tiny sliver of a 360 view is a lot less useful, but, sadly, it's the only view. Again, sharing these 360 pictures is extremely difficult. I'd love to embed them in the article like a normal picture, but we don't have the ability to do that right now. Click here to see a sample picture from the Essential camera. Here's one from the Mod 360 camera, and here's the Samsung Gear 3602017. These pictures are all awful, but if we focus on the Essential camera, we see a dull, dim picture that is blurry and grainy. There's also a very visible image seen to the left and right. This is outside on a sunny day, so it's the best possible scenario for a camera, yet the picture is still awful. I'll say again that the Essential camera is in beta, but none of the non-beta cameras look any better. These early 360 cameras are just not up to the task of producing a nice 360 image. Essential has a lot of work to do on the 360 camera, because using it is currently an exercise in frustration. It's slow and often just doesn't work. Even if Essential cleans up all the Essential-specific issues it has, it's still a first-gen 360 camera. The 360 camera market in general has a lot of work to do before the cameras are any good, but even against the lackluster competition, Essential's particular entry is expensive given its proprietary nature. Page 4. The Essential phone launcher looks just like the Pixel launcher. There's a Google feed page on the left, the usual home screen with round icons, and an app drawer that is beautifully devoid of crap. Note that screenshots don't actually include the dead section from the camera. The lock screen, notification panel, and quick settings, recent apps, settings, and Essentials settings page, which is just a data collection opt-in. The Google Assistant, the always-on voice command option, and the smart lock options. They're all here and intact. The AB update system in action. You can upgrade your phone while you're using your phone. Essential is doing a lot of good things when it comes to the software. The Essential phone ships a normal, stock version of Android save for the camera app and a single extra settings screen. The OS loadout is great, and it features all the usual Google accoutrements. OK Google support is here and works even when the screen is off. All the smart lock settings work. Ambient display is here. You can press the power button twice to launch the camera. The home screen is the AOSP Android open source project version of the Pixel launcher. Everything works, nothing is broken, and there's no bloatware. It's also refreshing compared to the half-baked Android skins that usually get slapped onto flagship Android devices. The only bad news is a common complaint: the Essential phone ships with an old version of Android 7.1 Nougat. In a Reddit armor, the company said Android 8.0 Oreo would arrive in the next month or two. 2 months from that statement gives it until about November 14th to deliver. After the aforementioned rocky history with deadlines and promises, hopefully the company will actually keep this one. Other than the old version of Android, the update situation looks pretty good. Essential has been reliably providing monthly security updates for Android, and these updates are extremely easy to apply thanks to Essential's support of Android's optional AB update system. The Essential phone ships with 2 system images, allowing an OS upgrade to be performed in the background on one system partition while the other one is used for running the phone. A reboot swaps the partition, leading to a seamless update with almost zero downtime. This system, which was inspired by Chrome OS, also makes an Android update safer, since if an update doesn't apply to a partition correctly, Android still has the old, working partition lying around as a backup. In its armor, Essential promised that the upgrade to Android 8.0 Oreo would also eventually mean an upgrade to Oreo's best feature, Project Treble. Treble uses a defined, standardized set of hardware abstraction layers housed to modularize the Android OS away from the base hardware, allowing for easier updates. If OEMs upgrading to Treble do everything right, it also means you'll be able to compile Android from source and have it fully work on the Essential phone. We're still waiting for a non-Google Project Treble phone to hit the market to test, but users could theoretically upgrade the device to a new version of Android without having to wait for their OEM. In its armor, Essential said its first Android 8.0 update would come with pass-through HALs for Project Treble, meaning it would use a backward-compatible mode only available to phones upgrading to Android 8.0. This means the compile from source and upgrade your own phone situation would be possible at first. But the company said it is committed to doing better and better over time, and it will eventually take a stab at upgrading to the standardized Treble HALs, which would let users compile their own OS from source with little effort. The Essential phone has an unlocked bootloader, meaning advanced owners can enable root access, modify the existing software, or load totally new third-party builds of software onto the device. Without Treble support, getting the third-party software to a working condition is a challenge, but it's definitely possible if there is demand and a larger enough user base for a development community to spring up. At this point in an Android review, it normally have a big section about the company's past upgrade history. But the Essential is a new phone from a new OEM, so there's really Nothing to go on. The company has promised 2 years of support, but we'll have to see if it sticks to that promise, and how quickly it executes on major updates. There's nothing to do other than wait and see, but again, the company definitely hasn't made a good first impression with past deadline promises. Performance: there's not much to say about the performance, which is a good thing. The phone is fast. The Snapdragon 835 performs just as well in benchmarks as every other Snapdragon 835 phone. The UFS 2.1 storage speeds are decent too. Most importantly, the software feels fast and snappy as long as you stay away from both of the cameras. Scrolling is fast and fluid, and apps start up quickly. I've seen some pre-release reports of performance problems, but with the newest software builds, I haven't seen anything bad from the non-camera parts of the OS. Page 5. The Essential phone's built-in camera system features a dual lens system, but unlike most of the dual-camera flagships out there, the second camera isn't for optical zoom or a wide-angle lens. Like a Huawei phone, Essential uses one RGB sensor and one monochrome sensor. So when it's picture time, the phone mashes these two together for what Essential says is a final photograph with rich, deep clarity. You can also go with the optional mono mode, which just uses the output from the monochrome sensor. The Essential phone's camera just isn't that great. It's not competitive with flagships from Google and Samsung in daylight, low light, or really any kind of light. The mashing of two separate pictures lowers the overall detail, resulting in a 13MP image that lacks the detail you'd get from other 13MP cameras. The camera is also pretty slow. The startup time isn't great, and you can only take a picture every second or two. I stress tested it by mashing the shutter button. After about 3 pictures, it crashed. When you compare flagship cameras, you're often reduced to nitpicking minor differences, but there's no contest here. Just check out the Essential phone versus a Galaxy S8 or Google Pixel. The Essential phone in indoor lighting. There's a serious lack of detail in this shot compared to the other cameras. It's easiest to see in the dirt and bark of my little ginseng plant. The spec sheet says the Pixel's 12.3MP should have less detail than the 13MP camera on the Essential phone, but there is way more detail in this Pixel shot. Ditto for the Galaxy S8, which pulls way more detail out of 12MP than the Essential phone's dual 13MP camera setup. In this daylight shot, the Essential phone produces a hazy image that's too bright. There's also the lack of detail again. The Pixel produces good detail and rich color, though I'd prefer a little more brightness in the forest. That's an easy tweak in an editor. The Galaxy S8 has more detail than the Essential phone, but a bit less than the Pixel. The brightness is great. Everything is a bit too yellow for my taste, but again, I can live with a single tweak in an editor. A low light test, which isn't even that low, shows some real separation. The Essential phone is dark and grainy, and it can get the focus right. This result was after several tries. It's hard to believe the Pixel here is in the same lighting, but it is. Everything is bright, clear, and in focus. It's a night and day difference. Essential impresses but still can't compete. If we're grading Essential on a curve, it's pretty impressive to see a company start from nothing, round up only 100 employees, and produce a smartphone with some compelling aspects in about 18 months. Essential has built a beautiful, unique-looking phone, and it made all the right software decisions. There are so many times when we see a company jump into the US smartphone market only to crash and burn. Amazon failed with the Fire phone. Facebook's HTC first lasted about a month on the market. The next bit Robin survived for a year before the company was bought out by Razer. Leaker's attempted US launch appeared to deeply injure the company. There are also hundreds of failed Kickstarter campaigns. For a first attempt at a phone, the Essential phone is pretty good, and it certainly seems like a more viable product than any of those other first-timers. If we're not grading on a curve, the Essential phone's camera, screen, water resistance, and the lack of memory expansion can't compete with other flagship Android phones. If you're pricing a phone at $700, you need to compete with the other $700 phones, and Essential's first phone just can't do that. It's hard to see anyone buying an Essential phone after looking at the competition. Both cameras are a mess. The 360 camera at least has the excuse of being unfinished, but the main camera's performance and quality is a major disappointment for this device. At least software builds are still arriving from Essential at a pretty good pace, indicating that Essential isn't giving up. There is so much wait and see with Essential. The company messed up a lot in the run-up to the phone's release, with missed deadlines, leaked personal info, and all sorts of other problems. The company needs to show us that those issues were growing pains it can overcome. It also needs to establish an update track record, which might seem promising right now, but we need to see some proof in the form of a speedy Oreo update. It's great to see a company that doesn't fall in line with the usual OEM groupthink. Essential tried something different, and for the most part, it worked. The phone is just a bit too expensive given the missing features and its camera and LCD issues. No one is going to get everything right on the first try, and Essential's first try is pretty good. I hope the company sticks around and iterates on this hardware, fixing some of the things we have issues with. After spending some time with the phone, I've really taken an interest in Essential. It just has to be a distant interest for now. The good beautiful hardware, the camera cutout is risky but works well, and the logoless, minimal design looks great. A perfect stock Android loadout. Everything works, and nothing is broken. The software is miles ahead of a Samsung or LG phone. You get all the software extras too, like AB updates, the Google Assistant, always and voice commands, and all the smart lock options. It's as close as you can get to Pixel phone software without buying a Pixel phone. The camera is not up to par with flagship phones, both in speed and image quality. In a world where most phones ship with flawless, super bright panels, the LCD here needs to be brighter. No headphone jack, no micro SD slot, no waterproofing. The 360 camera is slow, buggy, expensive, proprietary, and all for a format that no one can share. The ugly. It's natural to be wary of a new company, and Essential's bungled launch didn't help.